Good evening, black people and all allies fighting for black liberation, black prosperity, and black joy. I'm Charles Blow, and welcome to Prime. House Democrats hope to vote on the Build Back Better spending bill as early as tomorrow. The White House has called it a historic investment in the country's middle class. The bill would expand the child tax credit, provide affordable health care, and represent the country's largest investment in clean energy. But there is a lesser touted provision in the bill, a $285 billion tax break for the country's upper middle class. In the most recent version of the bill, Democrats raised the amount of state and local taxes, also known as SALT, Americans can deduct on their federal income returns. High-income families will be able to increase their annual deduction from $10,000 a year to $80,000 a year through 2030. The move partially walks back a provision in Donald Trump's signature tax bill that capped SALT deductions and placed an extra burden on wealthy taxpayers in highly taxed, largely blue states like New York and California. It's also the second most expensive provision in the bill, nearly $100 billion more than paid family and medical leave, which would get nixed again, probably by moderates in the Senate. For months, Democrats and the Biden administration have promised to prioritize the middle class. But at the 11th hour, the Build Back Better plan appears on this measure to do the opposite. Joining me now to discuss is Numa, Associate Professor of Economics at Colorado State University, and Julianne Malveaux, Dean of the College of Ethnic Studies at California State University at Los Angeles. So, Mr. Numa, is this like a big handout to the upper middle class in the country?
Wow, I would say yes, but a little bit of history here. Prior to 2017, high income earners in this country were allowed to completely wipe out their tax bill when it comes to state and local taxes. And the Trump administration basically, in a move to punish, right, blue states, imposed and lowered the cap. So I understand the frustration. I would say that the move is probably good politics, but mild or poor policy. But there is also a lot to like in the Build Back Better plan, and I hope that we can also talk about that.
Yeah, Julian, I just want to stay on SALT for 1 second. For the cost of 2-year-long repeal of the SALT cap, we'd be able to afford universal pre-K, expand the child tax credit further, or provide free community college. In that regard, is this even good politics?
It's poor politics, it's poor optics, it's as ignorant as anything I've ever seen, quite frankly. You know, this Biden-Harris came in saying we're going to pay attention to poor people. And over the course of this time, as Build Back Better has been out there, we've seen not all, but a lot of the good stuff cut out. Now, Professor Numa is absolutely correct. There are some good things in the Build Back Better bill. I think it is totally backwards to say we're going to change the SALT thing. Now, again, Professor Numa is right about the history. You could write off all your taxes. This was retaliation to the wealthy. But what are the wealthy, progressive, so-called liberals going to do if Biden takes this out and funds the programs, Charles, that you've mentioned? What are they going to do? They going to vote for Trump? I don't think so. So I really think that this is wrong-headed. It's an unnecessary concession, and it really does kick the poor and his backbone, President Biden's backbone. It kicks us to the curb.
You know, Professor Numa, you know, Democrats and Biden have said and promised that this bill would be funded by tax increases on the wealthy. But that seems to only mean the super uber wealthy billionaires, right? So these people are also wealthy. I mean, I really struggle with this idea that they say, you know, we won't raise taxes on anybody making over $400,000. Well, that's wealthy. I'm sorry. I don't know who, there's not a lot of people out here making $400,000 a year. The middle class is not making $400,000 a year. So what are you talking about? So when they are giving out these tax breaks, and you know, I understand the idea. Trump did it, it must be bad, so we got to roll it back. Yeah, I get that on some level. And I know that Trump was trying to punish Democrats in blue states that have the higher taxes. I get all that. However, the net effect here is that you're giving the money that could pay for all these other programs for poor people to wealthy people. And it doesn't matter if they're liberal or conservative. They're still wealthy people who do not need it as much as those low-income people need universal pre-care or they need free community college. How do you look at the politics of this? Because to me, it just doesn't make sense.
I agree with you, Charles. And you know, I have to say something. We need to move away from this myth, this falsehood in America, which consists of saying that because you're super wealthy, you are necessarily a job creator. I have not seen any evidence to back up that claim. And you know what is really disappointing with this plan is that in America, the fundamental inequity is that you are taxed more heavily when you are a wage earner as opposed to someone deriving income from capital. And this is this logic that Democrats have embraced. You would expect so-called progressive legislators and policymakers to realize that, you know, we need to inject more equity, which would profit Black and brown folks, because that's what it is about, right? But the logic of the plan is still flawed. Again, I would not reject everything, but this is certainly not the transformational plan that some have expected, which, by the way, does not surprise me coming from Biden.
Julianne, this is a tax cut. Wait, I'm sorry. I didn't interrupt your chuckle. I didn't go, right? But this is a tax cut, right? So this is something that, in theory, Republicans are very much for. Cut taxes, cut taxes. That's what they say they stand for. Do you think that they will still stand for it if Biden has his name on it? Do you think that it will survive in the Senate?
Oh, absolutely. I think that basically cutting taxes on the wealthy has a whole lot of value for Republicans. They can say Democrats did it. They can blame the Biden administration. We didn't do it. We just voted for it. The Biden administration did it. I think it has a very good possibility, but I think it's a wrong possibility. I think that when we're looking at what's going on right now, we're especially looking at the poor. This bill, according to the Center for Tax Policy, gives people who make more than $500,000 a year 10 times more tax relief than someone who makes less than 10 grand a year. So I can't think of another word, Charles, but bass backwards. I didn't curse on your show. Bass backwards. This is the most backward thing that I've seen in a very long time. And it's a shock to see it come from the Biden administration. And what's worse about it is that the Biden administration is already laying on the ropes, you know, getting ready for the third punch from Muhammad Ali or somebody, because they just have not delivered in the ways that they've promised. This is a slap in the face to the poor. It's a slap in the face to anyone who's struggling economically right now. It's a slap in the face.
Professor Numa, why would then progressives sign on to this, right? Other than the fact that those progressives are also from the very same states that are going to see the relief, right? So on some level, this is all politics is local. My constituents will see relief with this provision. My progressive values put aside, Vermont is a high tax state. New York is a high tax state. California is a high tax state. New Jersey is a high tax state. It doesn't matter it seems to not matter that these people are progressive. They still want their voters to get that money.
Yes.
Yes, sure.
So I'm just asking you, Professor, why? I'm just asking you, why would the progressives sign on to this?
Well, you have to go back to the way we finance political parties in this country. As long as you will have financing dependent upon mega donors, and until we move toward public financing of politics, you will have some progressives siding and signing off on that kind of measure because, of course, they view this as a way to recoup when the next election cycle comes up. And I was thinking about this prior to the show, and I think this is actually the core of the issue. And of course, we can see why this last minute bargain have been made to try to lure some centrists in the House. But the irony is, I'm not quite sure that this will pass, or at least gather all the votes from on a Democratic side. I'm not sure that, for instance, Joe Manchin, right, or Kirsten Sinema would sign off on that. My understanding is that they have an issue. These two particular senators have an issue with simple, true progressive ideas such as paid leave or universal child care, which to me is mind-boggling.
$285 billion in tax breaks, mostly going to the top 10% of households in this country. And that is the bill that is being championed by Democrats and by this White House. We need to reconsider that. They need to take a look at that. I don't think these are good optics. I don't think these are good politics. Numa and Julianne Malveaux, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I really appreciate your time.